I'm going to hand over to Hursty now, who's going to present to us. Thanks, Hursty.
Thanks, Yaz. Thanks, everyone. First off, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking a bit of time out. I know these are always useful to just sit down and see faces of people who are doing the same thing as you or trying to do the same thing as you in these current times. So I do really appreciate you being along, and hope I can somehow help out with a little bit on some virtual presenting bits. My background is in, as I was saying earlier on, is in radio and events. Radio's kind of been in my life since I left university, really. Presenting on sort of commercial radio breakfast shows and drive time shows, and then, like I said, the BBC recently, as well as all the events that came off the back of that. So things like working in front of the crowd at West Brom is great fun. Doing stuff on the stage of Worcester Warriors on match days when they happen was great as well. And then things like business lunches. So for companies, some of you might be aware of Amros, who used to do some big sporting lunches, still hoping to do some big sporting lunches with Clive Woodward last year, Eddie Jones, fingers crossed, at some point before this year ends. And all those kind of things have given me some great experience into what I love doing, which is, technically is a little bit of performing, really, whether we're on the radio or at those events, just hosting or whatever. So now I've kind of had to obviously change, shift tact a little bit. It's meant doing things like quizzes, Jodie, and I suppose the main bits of advice I would give for doing those is just don't be afraid of those pauses, because when we're in a pub doing a quiz and the question master obviously pauses after asking his question, giving you a bit of time to answer, there's normally a bit of rustling of crisp packets or people conferring, all that kind of stuff. In these situations, you don't get that. A lot of the time everyone's muted, so it literally is dead silent. And as someone who grew up working in radio, silence, dead air is an absolute crime. So having to get used to those silences has really been tricky, but it's fine. Let it breathe, let it happen. Don't worry about rushing it. And hopefully everyone should enjoy those as well. And don't make the questions too hard, yeah? I've been doing lots of quizzes recently for a few charities and my own just at home, which started off really as just a way to be able to, be present and still practice that whole presentation thing and make sure I didn't forget what I was doing. Been talking to a few companies about online social activity, so where they might take clients out to a day out at the races or a day out for dinner and lunches and all that kind of stuff. We've been talking about putting together sort of 90-minute days for people's clients, which is a bit of entertainment and might involve a bit of quizzing, but the creative side of me loves coming up with challenges and ideas and things like that you could do with clients in kind of a virtual visit. Some virtual conference hosting has been a great experience as well, and then also working on the website at Gifted Gab just to make sure it lists everything I do. Now, I was going to share a PowerPoint presentation for this, but I thought that might be a bit of a cop-out, because here I am trying to tell you about how to present, how to feel comfortable, in this little box, whilst you're looking at loads of other faces and you're not sure whether they're looking straight back at you or even paying attention. So I thought a PowerPoint was an absolute cop-out. So I'm just going to be here and giving you my thoughts, and it's probably good that you can chip in on the chat as well at the same time if you want to too. So look, I mean, that whole thing of having the camera off is something that I don't know whether you might be comfortable and you might not be. Some people like to attend these kind of things and just have their voice in, but I think, and you'll probably recognize from this, seeing everyone and being able to watch everybody, whether you're being nosy or not, makes a massive difference. Whether you're confident or not, knowing that other people are here for you is quite useful in these kind of things. Zoom have been creating webinars on quite a few bits and bobs to do with virtual presenting, and I did notice in one that I saw a couple of months back, they've released something called an attention indicator. So you can see if someone's turned off from you and has started getting on their emails or going on their Facebook or creating a new TikTok. Now, I haven't seen it in action yet, but it scared me a little. So make sure it scares you a bit too. So what is there to love about virtual presenting, really? And if there is something you love, then please stick it in the chat, because I'd love to know. But what is there to love about virtual presenting? I did a Twitter poll over the last 24 hours and kind of said, I was sort of just asking people about generally how they feel about virtual presenting. The three options were enjoying it, still uncomfy, or prefer others to do it. And 50-50 split, probably because of a small number of votes, but people are either enjoying it or they prefer someone else to do it. So no one put themselves in the still uncomfy kind of bracket, but I think it's the way forward. I think it's got to be the norm for a little while. So much so that whilst my other half has been working solidly from home since it started on interior design projects, her mobile phone rang the other day and she was almost shocked because she's so used to Teams ringing in now and not her phone. Everything going over on Teams. You know, that kind of when your landline goes off. You know, back in the day when your landline used to ring, and you used to go, "Well, who's that?" Same kind of thing now with their mobile, and that's kind of in some cases the extent to where it's going. By the way, speaking of Teams, I don't know if you've seen the Teams advert. If you haven't, I'm just going to try and share it with you because there's a little bit about it I just wanted to to have a look at. This is the Teams advert for Microsoft. Now I'm going to stop it there. There's only one little thing I wanted to make a point of. The lovely lady from the University of Bologna you saw there, who I think is the only one who maybe hasn't quite grasped the whole virtual presenting thing, because she's up here and she's looking down here. She's being a bit loud and she's not quite framing herself correctly, and she's really going for it. But I thought that was really interesting because Microsoft decided to use that. So, you know, she might look like my parents looked like the first time we tried to FaceTime and they didn't have a clue what they were doing. But Microsoft used it. If they'd sent a camera around to her house and they'd come back, you know, the camera crew and the whole team would come back with that footage, it would be scrapped. But Microsoft, who are arguably selling one of the biggest products around at the minute, kept it in, which seems crazy. You know, it's like Christian Dior using Mrs. Brown from Mrs. Brown's Boys in their next Christmas perfume advert. There is an image for you, Mrs. Brown coming out the liquid gold in the nuddy. I'll leave that picture with you. But in this case, it's fine. And my point is because no one expects perfect now in this virtual presenting world. We kind of allow for it. We bear with it. I think it's kind of created a new norm. And I think it's created a nice little atmosphere of being relaxed when we're presenting virtually. So we're not expecting a flawless HD performance. So don't put that pressure on yourself. You know, be like the lady from Bologna or Mrs. Brown in the Christian Dior advert, if you prefer that image. And don't worry about making mistakes. This brings me on to something else I love about virtual presenting. The vulnerability. See, when I help Lucy Barkus of This Great Parish write and produce her Leader X podcast series, one of the things we talked about was this generation of leaders taking advantage of vulnerability, exposing yourself, freely admitting to your team that you don't necessarily know everything and you don't have all the answers, and using that kind of helps connect, I think, a lot better with people and bring things down a level from that original pressure of the old days of presenting. So making mistakes, not being perfect, being a bit of a novice, it's all the same thing. So even if you don't have confidence in speaking to other people, maybe in some cases you don't know them, don't worry about it. The vulnerability is fine, and that's another thing I love about virtual presenting. I mean, when else are you more vulnerable than using technology you're not 100% au fait with, that is also invading your home life, which before you tried to keep fairly separate from your work life, and also having to be professional in that space as well. Well, the space you're normally unprofessional in. Take that to mean whatever you want. I think my point is embrace it, because it's good for you and it's good for everyone else who joins in as well. So I think it really helps take away a few of the barriers that people might place in front of virtual presenting. You've got to remember that this is, you know, potentially in some cases the equivalent of someone stepping up to a plinth, you know, at those huge conferences where there are chairs and chairs and chairs and chairs of people going back miles in an auditorium. There's one plinth up on the stage. And it's the equivalent of you know, the CEO walking up there in their pajamas, a cup of tea in one hand, a plate of toast in the other, sitting down and going, all right, what are we doing then? And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that sort of leads on to my third point, really, about being at home with it, with the whole virtual presenting thing. You know, if I'm hosting like a conference or an awards ceremony, I think one of the best ways to enhance what I'm doing, and it certainly helps with my sort of anxiety levels, is to get to know the audience as much as possible. And there is no better way, thanks to the world of virtual presenting, than by having a nose at people's backgrounds. So can you tell what I'm doing right now? See, when Yaz connected to me earlier on first off, I was like, look at the number of cards up on the mantelpiece there. A bit of birthday celebrations going on there. She's got a few nice little decorations. She's made like the sort of half stone wall and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't it look fancy? But then look at Andrea, who's got conference call bingo ready to go. I hope I haven't ticked too many boxes yet. I'm trying to be a little bit different, but you don't know. Paul with like plants and photos everywhere. I love that. That's great. Kim is like put herself in rural Herefordshire before she's even moved there. Look at that. I love that. Claire has got like a tower block office with the huge, look at that, like the huge desk, the telly and the screens and everything else. Alan's got the printer in the background, ready to go. If you need to send him anything, he can print it for you right now. It's ready. He's got the pictures up. I love it. And then, you know, everyone's got some light going on. Faye, that looks like one of the comfiest seats ever. I just want to fall asleep in that seat. It's brilliant. But this look, that's what I mean. This is another great reason. And do you know what? Take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. If you're not, you know, if you want people to kind of be on that level with you, then you can use your background to do a bit of that. It's not arrogant. It's not intimidating. It's just natural. It's a bit of you. You know, whilst we can't hang out with you in the office all the time, noticing bits and bobs around you, you know, we can read into it. We can read into it more. Some will do it more than others, but use that space. It is no coincidence that behind me, I have an owl duck, which I picked up last time I went on holiday, which was to Lisbon in Portugal. My M&M's dispenser, which is empty because if it was full, well, no, it would be empty all the time. And a little bit of the Vedette beer bottle where you can get your face printed on it, which we did at Triple B, very close just before lockdown. There's nothing wrong with dressing it up. Have some fun with it. Change it round every time. It's now a bigger part of your personality than ever before, and it makes it a lot easier for people to get used to knowing a bit more about you. And that just brings me on to the fourth and final point. Things that are easy fixes that, you know, will help you fall in love with virtual presenting. You know, obviously just touched on the background there, but your lighting stuff can be anything from all the, you know, the equipment that people are buying on Amazon, you know, studio lights and stage lights, to what we've been luckily blessed with for most of this lockdown, some beautiful sunshine. The camera, don't worry about hogging it, but don't ignore it. Just like I'd be conscious at a conference of paying some eye contact to people who are around me, going in between the two really helps. Whether you've got notes or screen sharing issues to deal with, don't worry, but always have your camera on. And I've touched on it earlier. It just helps the person presenting, you know, not just because we're being nosy, we want to see what you've got, but, you know, just let yourself be seen in whatever state you're in. You know, it might just help that fear of the camera that you've had as well before. So, you know, when we all go back after this and it's time for the marketing department to come round with video interviews, you might just be that little bit more comfy. Because I do think when we go back, I think the attitudes to how polished and staged those kind of things need to be will have changed massively. Remember, be Mrs. Brown walking out the water in the Dior advert. Sound discipline's another one. You know, we've all come across the whole no, you go stumbling block. Don't worry about the silence. Pause, take a break, have something handy that's a little coping mechanism for the silence. Mine's always a cuppa. fine. Those little things around you will hopefully just help things feel a bit more comfortable. And when you do feel more comfortable, you embrace all your background and you love the people that you're doing with, and you love to be sharing everything you're doing. I think that's when you might just fall in love with virtual presenting. I hope you do anyway, if you haven't already. If you want to get in touch anymore, I'm on LinkedIn as Richard Hurst, or the website is giftedgab.co.uk. Hey, let's have a one-to-one in our pajamas. And if you're still worried about virtually presenting to people that they won't enjoy it or they won't pay attention, I heard this morning that they're now doing virtual speed awareness courses via Zoom. So just think of the person who has to host that and try and keep everyone in touch. There you go. I'll leave you with that thought, which is a much better thought than Mrs. Brown naked walking out the water in the Dior advert.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Hursty.
No worries.
Great presentation. I hope everyone found that useful. I know I can totally relate to that, doing all of these webinars. So thank you, Hursty. I really appreciate that. I think that brings us to a close then. Just before we ended, I just wanted to give a little update from the Chamber. So we've started running online courses from next week. Feel free to take a look at those on our website, or if you email me, I can send you the course calendar. They're training courses such as Get Your Business Online and Managing Change in the Workplace. There's a whole portfolio of courses in reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you want to have a look at those, please do, and I can send you the course calendar. This networking session is on every week at the same time, so if you want to book for next week, please feel free to. I think that's it from me. Thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.